Hello and welcome to All Indians Matter. I am Ashraf Engineer. As the Indian economy struggles to recover after the carnage of COVID 19, there have been rampant job losses over the past 2 years. Some workers might find jobs as the recovery progresses, but for most, it will be an uphill task. Will job seekers be able to skill themselves for the new age jobs shaped by digitization, reconfigured supply chains, and evolving product portfolios? Even young graduates would need to develop new skills to be job ready. While skilling is much talked about, the changing employment landscape calls for a new approach. In this episode, we will focus on new skills required by micro, small, and medium sized enterprises or MSMEs.
All Indians matter.
We have on the show Sunil Dahiya, who leads the Wadhwani Opportunity Program in Asia and is expanding its footprint in emerging economies. The program is part of the Vadwani Foundation. He undertook multiple initiatives at NIIT and contributes to building industry connections for placing 2 lakh students. Sunil has immense experience of 25 years in the vocational training space. The Wadswani Foundation, started by Silicon Valley entrepreneur Dr. Ramesh Wadwani, has been at the forefront of accelerating economic development in emerging economies by driving large-scale job creation through entrepreneurship, innovation, and skills development. The foundation is scaling impact in 25 countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The Wadhwani Opportunity Program specifically empowers millions of students with 21st century employability skills that drive family supporting wages. Welcome, Sunil.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Sunil, according to a Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship report, only 4.69% of our workforce is formally skilled. How has this become even more of a problem after the pandemic?
So, actually, yes, from when we look at it from a pandemic standpoint, the last 2.5 years have been an absolute challenge. More because the entire training piece, which was at the shop floor training for skilling, actually took a backseat. And most of the training happened in the online format, but not on the shop floor format. So what this gave rise to, because the employers were closed, there was the skilling ecosystem, training centers were closed. It has produced a kind of a huge backlog for India as such. And yes, however, this was on one side. However, on the other side, the online learning, that gained momentum. And then, of course, the entire focus is now shifting towards multi-skilling and what we all should do for emerging job roles or the future job roles as it is emerging now after the COVID times.
Yeah, absolutely right. It is generally accepted that small businesses were the most impacted by the pandemic, with many shutting shop permanently. Naturally, this meant that their workers lost their livelihoods. Now, what are these workers up against now? How tough is it to get a job?
Yeah, actually, these workers, today it is like, many of them, first, of course, the many of the MSME who are not able to cope up. And obviously, because of this pandemic, closed shops. And a lot of them had to really be, they really lost jobs. But as we stand today, what has happened is, while nearly good significant, let's say around 30 to 40% of them moved into freelancing and then moved into the unorganized sector. It's more like either freelancing or moving into the unorganized sector. So that is one part. Of course, there is a silver line now that there are certain, let's say, verticals within the MSME part who have bounced back and they are almost reaching around 90% of pre-COVID or pre-pandemic levels. But this is more true about the food and beverage businesses, grocery, and more of these areas. So the silver lining is it is coming back. But yes, at an overall level, yes, people have moved into, freelancing and unorganized sector. Also, one more very important piece which happened here, state governments did come up with, helping the MSME all across in terms of ensuring that they can survive the COVID pandemic time. So there were a lot of inputs. And in fact, there were things like there are MSMEs who continued to pay their employees irrespective. And now once they're back, they are fine. But on the other side, yes, all those MSMEs where the real issue was its hands-on job right on the shop floor, those were the worst hit, and they had to go back to their natives. Government did open up schemes where can they work remotely from their natives, but yes, that has that filled up the entire space? No. It is still the workers are still coming back and getting into the system. But yes, that's where we are.
And how has the skills landscape changed specifically for MSMEs?
Actually, from the MSME standpoint, actually we work with a lot of the micro and small business units. And what has happened now is many things gain momentum. Things like, should we do a technology model or a hybrid model? Now, MSME now is completely towards a hybrid solution rather than looking at a pure tech solution. Things like remote working, technology usage, this aspect became more and more prevalent. Another key aspect which started off is multi-skilling. Now, this concept of multi-skilling gained momentum. And in fact, most of the enterprises started looking at it that, the manpower or the training, the talent should be prepared for multi-skilling. Multi-skilling more from a not only aspect of two diverse kind of skills, but complementing skills. How do you prepare the entire workforce on that? That's a big learning which came in. And then, in fact, the skilling and upskilling on new age skills. The one of the key aspect is many of the skills which we were talking about few years back are not even there, and there are skills which we never thought about are emerging. So this whole aspect of learnability, whole aspect of tech, being tech savvy, whole aspect of really working on hybrid models, these are the things which really changed in the skilling landscape.
That's right. And since 2008, there have been many initiatives such as the National Skill Development Corporation, Skill India, the National Council for Vocational Education and Training, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, etc. But the outcome has fallen short of what was needed. What do you think went wrong?
Yeah, this is a very interesting, aspect. So actually speaking, the outcomes did not, while there was a lot of work on driving inputs and outputs, but the outcomes did not meet the expectations. Of course, there's one aspect which is obvious, which is the pandemic. But I think I'm going beyond that, because the kind of the initiatives taken by the NSDC, the entire ministry, MOLE, Ministry of Labor, and so many initiatives have been taken at the central level as well as the state levels. But when it came to the real outcomes, how many students really made it to the family supporting wages? How many of them were able to really get onto their livelihoods? Now, that is the aspect which, when we get to the data, looks like the kind of plan which we had did not get delivered. There are three or four key reasons which comes to my mind. One is, of course, right at the base level, the vocational training space or the skilling space, the way it is treated by employers. And before that, even by the whole ecosystem, it is taken as not the primary, but the secondary kind of treatment. So, which has been one of the, now, of course, this is not something which is only in the last 4 years, this has been going on. So that's one piece. The second part is the industry and the private sector collaboration. Actually, one of the key aspect is most of the countries where industry and academia are together, we will see these skilling initiatives very, very highly successful. India has done, huge progress in this area, but can can this go early in the life of the student? Maybe that could be a way of, answering the one of the gap which was visible. Then very low participation from working age women. I think this is another piece. Almost, it's even now we are talking, we're still struggling between 15 to 20% of the workforce, as women. And we have to go a long, long way. And of course, I must mention one of the last very important point is the quality of the training fraternity or the quality of trainers in terms of one, quantity, two, quality, both the sides. It's how many people are there for training, and then what is the quality of training. So all these areas, actually pandemic opened our eyes. It is, can training be delivered online? This was a very big question, but it answered it. So those were the aspects which were the real gap, which I feel were the reason for the gap.
I think, Sunil, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, so many of the points you've raised, we've observed in industry for so long. I mean, the fact that training hasn't been top of mind for most people for decades now, but at least the pandemic changed that. It came as a sort of a painful lesson, but at least it happened. And the lack of women in the workforce and all that, absolutely spot on. How would you change the approaches, keeping in mind specifically what the MSME sector needs, especially because the MSME sector is the largest employer in the country?
Yeah, the answer is multi-pronged, frankly. So let me come to specifically MSME. So from the government side, what we think can be done, in terms of the ease of, even if things like, somebody wants to, let's say, the ease of entrepreneurship policies today, the whole aspect of, take an example, apprenticeship policy. Now, it is an industry facing policy, but it requires a complete kind of rehaul, in today's time. Things like when it comes to MSME, see, hybrid model, not the tech model, or I'm not trying to completely say no, but always prepared for hybrid, making sure that all the talent in MSME participates in the decision making. This, might sound as a very, very subjective stuff, but actually the organizations in MSME who had this, survived better than the others. So involvement of, the entire talent in the decision making. In the skilling space, lots of MSME, they do a lot of training for their people. But, maybe sad to say that the training feedback which is collected and applied later, there's a gap on that part. So the training feedback is there, but maybe was it really applied by the talent at the workplace? There could be, we do see some gaps in that area. No doubt on the other side, can on the, let's say, the industry side, there are things which can be done specifically for MSME, which is looking for opportunities in tier 2 and tier 3, and I can give you examples of states where, fruits are thrown on the road because there is no food processing unit. And how can that become a solution for, as one of the example of an MSME industry? Now, leveraging technology, remote working, the cluster approach, one kind of organizations in one cluster and then developing the market around it. And of course, the things like mentorship and training. These are the things I think we can focus on when it comes to very specifically the MSME sector need.
Absolutely. And I think as far as the cluster approach is concerned, the government has been talking about it, and there certainly was a lot of mention in the budget documents and things like that. What about capacity building at the small business level itself? Can the small businesses do anything to raise employees' skill levels at their end, rather than depending on, say, the government or any external source?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is the good part of what pandemic taught us. So I think now availability of a mobile handset and connectivity is really no more a very big problem. And every day it is only getting reduced. So we are only getting better and better as we proceed. With a digital solution device available in the hands of the, of the talent or of the workforce, and the content available all across, and the LMS is available, I think only the right way is to ensure digital solution for training and then adopting this in the system. I must give you examples of MSME who adopted this in this way that they incentivize the employees to complete the training and apply it at the workplace. So that's the way to really address the capacity building part.
So let's talk brass tacks. If employees are skilled, by how much does businesses' profitability improve, and by how much does the employees' average earnings rise?
This is a very tough one, frankly. But of course, I try to make it slightly, let's say, modular. So while, of course, there are many factors when it comes to profitability, it will be technology, marketing, customer connect, many, many things which will play a role. But definitely the productivity of the employee is one of the key component there. And what we have seen is, if the employees are skilled, let me share with you, we did a survey of 1,500 organizations in India, and which was a combination of MSME as well. Few large ones as well, 10 to 15% were large ones, but otherwise most of them were MSME side. One of the key aspects which came in was, the very direct question asked to them was, if the employee is skilled, what premium are you looking to pay him? Even at the time of joining, that's one. Then, how does the growth path of this person looks like as compared to others? So at a broad average level, most of the industry partners spoke about a 12 to 15%, higher, wages when it comes to productivity enhancement, and also in terms of their salaries. So in fact, there are some spaces like EdTech, some spaces like, EVs, where this can go up to 30 to 40%. Actually, this demand depends on which sector is right now, on a growth trajectory. And so that's where it will be, but very difficult to say a
Yeah, I'm sure it
common one
varies from
answer.
sector to
But
sector.
yes,
Yeah.
varies from various, correct.
But is it possible to talk about this from a gender perspective? I mean, skilling for women and how their wages would rise. Again, very ballpark figures.
Yeah, here what happened is, we have seen, if you look at the data today, we are talking about, almost 91 million out of 395 million workforce is women, which will be around 22%. But there are some good aspects, and I must share this, because we did a couple of initiatives for widows, we did a couple of initiatives for girl child, and also women entrepreneurs. And this was typically run by NSDC. So yes, this area is one of the primary focus area. The good side on the maybe some silver lining is, if you look at the PMKVY, the skilling scheme by the government, 49% of the participants are girls. So that's a really good sign. And then we are seeing now, right from school system, girls coming into automotive, electronics, the hardware sectors, which is an interesting trend as we proceed. And definitely with the technology available now all across and remote jobs coming in, when we were working with even the widows, the remote jobs, they are based in Punjab, but the jobs were in Bangalore. And it worked very well for them. Similarly, the Northeast states, it works very well for them. At the same time, industry has to also play a very important role. I must give an example. This is Shy Exports. So they had a major problem that 80% of their working population will be women, but then they would leave the company in 1 or 2 years. So here is the industry then came up with a fabulous program where they can all become self-employed women working as vendors to the same organization, and then it goes on to 10 to 15 years, and they are able to set up their own enterprise and lead it from there. But yes, at an overall level, women participation has to be more and more and more, and we still have a long way to really bridge that gap.
Absolutely. And just for the listeners' information, when you mention PMKVY, we are talking about the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana,
Yes,
which is one
yes.
of the flagship skilling initiatives of the government. Sunil, broadly speaking, again, would you say there are some skills that are more in focus when it comes to MSMEs?
Yes. And actually, this was a question there is a generic answer, then there's a very specific answer. So while generic answer would be around, skills like resilience, learnability, and adaptability, which might be very generic in nature, but very important for MSME. But looking at the current times, what we are seeing is project management, decision making, delegation skills, and digital transformations. Now, if these four are the emerging, skills which are required more from the MSME standpoint, so I think, that would be the current in demand. There are many more which is to do with market, which is to do with customer and others, but I just put across the emerging key trends which we are seeing in MSME sector today.
The government seems to be of the view, like you, that multi-skilling is valuable for employees and employers because it will lead to more job opportunities, job security, growth. It believes even employers will be more satisfied as multi-skilling improves efficiency, reduces costs, and enhances quality. Do you agree with this? And could you elaborate a little more on how it would benefit MSMEs? I know you've already done that to some extent.
Yeah, actually, yes. See, multi-skilling is something which was debated. And so actually, if you look at it, gone are the days when a person is skilled in one area and, he can, he or she can retire in that and, working for 35 years. So with technology, with innovation all around, these things have really changed. So even when you go down to multi-skilling, is it complementary multi-skilling or it is absolutely divergent multi-skilling? So these are very crucial. You may not see, I was very surprised when I, kind of talking to a, MSME sector working on tea plantation, working very hard to get drone operators. Now, the whole aspect is if they have to train the existing workforce on the drone operations, the productivity goes up multifold. But if they have to get for drone operations altogether different kind of people, then the whole cycle works negatively. So actually speaking, multi-skilling is the answer, but very important is knowing which multi-skill to be absorbed. For example, when it comes to MSMEs as a sector, what are the further diversifications they are looking into? And if that is transparent with the organization, then the multi-skilling really is very productive. Look at it today. Analytics is applying everywhere. It was not so much earlier. Now, innovation and analytics is everywhere. So apart from your normal, the domain knowledge, it's very crucial to, pick up those skills which are extremely crucial to your workplace and which is complementing for future. So from that standpoint, I think multi-skilling from the employer standpoint, no doubt will definitely increase productivity per employee, which also, increases scope of, higher wages for them. Definitely. At the individual level, it is you are prepared for multiple roles and multiple skills. You are that much more relevant every time. And you don't need to then worry about, maybe even there is a slump or there's a slowdown, you would be always on top of it. So, and that's another big factor of multi-skilling is this learnability, because there was earlier aspect I've started working, now learning curve really slows down. But now with this multi-skilling, you are always looking for what next. And if this becomes the nature of learning capability and that part, I'm sure will go a long way.
One of the solutions suggested was skill vouchers, and some pilot campaigns such as the Vikalp Skill Vouchers program in Maharashtra have shown results. Essentially, an individual's training needs are captured and progress tracked over time while adding periodic skill vouchers to his or her account. Do you think this is one of the answers?
Yeah, this is this is a very interesting concept, which came in with National Skill Development Corporation and Maharashtra government, working with MSDF into this skill voucher as a concept. And no doubt, it gives the control to the learner that you have this voucher and you can redeem it against skilling. So absolutely, as a concept, it really looks very, very promising. In fact, there are countries who have done very well on this, and there are countries, who have landed up in mess on this. However, from the India standpoint, absolutely skill voucher, as a concept is the way forward. And the way we look at it is definitely this will encourage students or the learners or MSME, let's say workforce, to learn and proceed further. But I must caution the aspects which are very important. One, of course, is right now, this is a wonderful concept, but maybe the building the awareness of this concept is crucial at this point. The second part, one of the key reasons for skilling ecosystem not producing the result as desired is wrong choice of the domain right in the beginning. I cannot stand for 8 hours in a day, but I went into retail. I'm not the one who can see blood, but went into healthcare. I'm not the one who can be customer facing, but I'm in customer facing. So those choices of what course to be taken is extremely important for the skill voucher to become absolutely the answer. That's the caution here. But otherwise, I think it's a great concept as we proceed further. And if this can be plugged in, then absolutely, this is a fabulous concept.
And what are the other potential solutions?
Yeah, on this, actually, I think let me speak in terms of, maybe 4 stakeholders. What government can do, maybe what academia should do, what industry can do, and what learner can do. Maybe one line about each one of them. So from the government side, it's a wonderful opportunity to get into, this making vocational education as core by ensuring this. There's a fantastic opportunity of NEP, new education, the national education policy. And, I'm very happy to share the way it is emerging. This might be a paradigm shift right from school education. Now, if that happens, we are in for a very different kind of outputs as we proceed further. That's on the government side. On the academia side, there's one key part. I must give you this example. One of the successful skilling models are those which evolve from district level first, state level next, and national level at the end, versus going from top down. So there are countries who have worked on this model and they're really doing well. So that this also answers MSME problem, frankly, because if the district level is first and then state, then all the opportunities at the district and the state levels comes first, then comes the national level. So that is the another piece. The whole curriculum design has to follow this kind of concept. Coming to industry, definitely apart from recognizing vocational skills, they should definitely participate early in the academia space. So I think somewhere I missed out. Government should look at how do we make entrepreneurship as a visible career option and a very powerful career option, versus let it be an additional course, or making it mainstream all across. And then finally, the learner, absolutely, this gives the opportunity of multi-skilling, application-based learning rather than the rote learning, which we all know. A high learnability quotient, because they will learn much more and they'll always learning curve would be on. And finally, the tech adaptability or innovation mindset. So from a learner standpoint, so if you put all this together, this potentially will move into a large solution to revive this part.
Now, Sunil, you would have seen many stories of transformation, both of small businesses and individuals through better skilling. So tell us your favorite story.
See, yeah. So in fact, it's a tough one. I was trying to choose which one should I share, and whether I give you a Haldiram example or Chroma example or Tasty Bites, Amoha, and EdTech. Of course, there's a huge kind of answers there. But I think let me give you examples like, see, organizations which have been changing with the time, which have been changing with the needs. I'll give you a very, very good example of this organization called Amoha. It's a startup organization, more of a small, I think they would have just reached a small category, may not be micro now. So the whole problem, see, let me give you an example. This example of Amoha. This organization came up with a vision that we should do something about, let's say, taking medical help to the home. So, so typically nursing care being provided at home. So can we provide a home solution? Now, when they started off, it was like this. They started off and there were big issues. And we can understand the senior citizens, it's a very big opportunity. And they need this, the need of the hour as well. How can the healthcare reach their home? So that was the aspect. But there was a big challenge which they had. The challenge was that, women or the girl candidates will not come forward. And they were very good at empathy and other skills. In spite of that, they would like to join hospitals, but not the home healthcare segment. And then came up this aspect of how do we work out in a way that we make a team of one supervisor, one girl and a boy, and then just completely flip the whole story. So now, absolutely, from their revenue standpoints, they were able to move up to, kind of a 10x kind of growth path from what it was earlier. So while this is one part, I must share also the aspect of, things like Tasty Bites. Now, Tasty Bites, if you know, this is an organization which provides raw material to most of the food chains across the country. So when we talk about your McDs and stuff like this, so they provide the food, the raw material for food. So this is Tasty Bite. Now, they took a specific project on how do you transform their current manpower, starting from mid-level managers to the last level, the customer-facing logistic person. And you can see the turnaround from that aspect. And we could see them, doing very well, even through the bad times. If you see, logistics was one area which really picked up, at that time, because maybe, of course, one was the pandemic as a reason, but, otherwise that gave them an opportunity to really, really bounce back. So this is something, maybe these two examples I thought I must share. And I must share one more piece on EdTech. Now, on the edtech piece, this is one of the most happening area in MSME segment today, and the whole movement from andragogy to heutagogy, moving from a teacher-centric curriculum to a student-centric curriculum, recognizing learning patterns and suggesting the learning models on the basis of the learning pattern of the individual. So me and you would be learning the same concept, but you love to do it by listening to something. And I love to do it by only watching a video. And there could be a third friend of ours who loves to read. And three of us are doing the same objective, but learning it differently. So these innovations, these are 2-3 examples which I thought I must share with you on this.
I think they were very, very powerful. Which brings me to my next question. Tell us about the Wadhwani Foundation and the Wadhwani Opportunity Program that you did.
Yeah. So of course, I think in the beginning you already gave the intro to the foundation. Yes, we are a not-for-profit philanthropic organization and a global philanthropic organization, and we have a primary mission of working on the economic development and driving the job creations in globally. So right now, we already are there in 20 countries, in Asia, Africa, Latin America. But very specific coming to skilling per se and the portion which I manage, I take care of India and Southeast Asia markets for the skilling per se, and I support the other markets globally. But from the foundation standpoint, we divided the whole mission into two parts. One was job creation, which is done by the entrepreneurship and the MSME part. And the other part is job fulfillment, which is ensuring that the talent is trained for the jobs which emerge. So that is the fulfillment part. So I look after globally the fulfillment part, and our the advantage and entrepreneurship vertical look after the entrepreneurship and let's say consulting solutions to MSME and that part. So this is the overall approach which we do, and we are on a big mission to ensure that 25 million youths are impacted by 2030. And we are able to not just say impacted is touch point. So that's not the point. The outcome of 25 million to be able to support their families and grow in their career. So, and when we say support their families, we always say support a family of four. And because many of them can start on their own and get their own pocket monies to do it, but can you support a family of four and then grow forward? That's the mission we drive in the skilling vertical. And on the other side, on entrepreneurship and advantage side, we have a goal globally for 10 million jobs to be created by 2030 through the entrepreneurship and advantage vertical, the MSME and the entrepreneurship vertical. So that's the mission we are driving across. And of course, Dr. Ramesh Wadwani, he is the inspiration for all of us. And he's the one, it is his dream to make sure that we become one of the largest, philanthropic organization in the world. And one of the key part which I want to share is all solutions which you provide, we always benchmark the best available solution and try to then make better than that solution, even though being a philanthropic initiative. So that's what keeps us on toes, and always, we bring out the best solution to the end customer. So that's what is our mission, and that's what we are working for.
So that brings me to the question that I ask all my guests at the end of the show. Why do you do this work?
Actually, it is so, let me be very honest, it is so satisfying. It is much larger than, all of us can think. Because here is something which we do at a scale level and we impact an individual's life. We have seen, girls who opened up government school girls, and this is an example from Delhi, a real example of government school girls opening a scooty, air filling shop under a tree, and within 4 years' time, now part of Mahindra Electric. Now, so if this is, that transformation and the success which we are able to, or the impact we can create to anyone's life who needs it. And this is, look at countries like Africa, India, Bangladesh, Philippines, Indonesia, Mexico, Brazil, all the emerging countries. And to do it at that scale gives us that whole thrill and energy to keep on doing it as much as we can. So that's the driving factor behind it. But thanks for asking this question.
Yeah, it's always, I think it's always the most interesting question that I ask. I mean, at least I get the most interesting answers from that. But if you, the listener, have a point of view or suggestions on skilling for MSMEs, write to me at editor@allindiansmatter.in. Sunil, thanks so much for explaining why skilling could well be the key to sustained growth and a stable economy. Indeed, it's critical to the MSME sector.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you all for listening. Please visit allindiansmatter.in, that's ALLINDIANSMATTER.in, for more columns and audio podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at Ashraf Engineer, that's ASHRAFENGINER, and All Indians Count, that's ALLINDS INDIANSCOUNT. Search for the All Indians Matter page on Facebook. On Instagram, the handle is All Indians Matter. Email me at editor@allindiansmatter.in. Catch you again soon.